The death penalty came to America when the British settled Jamestown in 1607. The first person to be executed in the New World was accused of being a Spanish spy in 1608.
169 years later, Thomas Jefferson attempted to change the death penalty law in Virginia, so only murder and treason were punishable by death with his bill, the Bill for Proportioning Crimes and Punishments in Cases Heretofore Capital. The bill was defeated by 1 vote.
In 1972, the Supreme Court case Furman v. Georgia ruled on the requirement for a degree of consistency in the application of the death penalty. The law was suspended for 4 years. Since 1977, restrictions on the death penalty have been placed, such as the 1977 Coker v. Georgia ruling that it is unconstitutional to execute a person for the rape of an adult woman when the victim is not killed. The 1986 Ford v. Wainwright case banned the execution of insane persons. The Gregg v. Georgia Supreme Court case reinstated the death penalty because the American people did not consider it to be cruel or unusual punishment.
The 2002 Atkins v. Virginia case ruled that the execution of people with an IQ lower than 70 violates the 8th Amendment's ban of cruel and unusual punishment. 3 years later, the Roper v. Simmons Supreme Court case ruled that the execution of those who committed crimes under the age of 18 is cruel and unusual punishment. The death penalty is a state law. Each state's laws are individual to that state, with the exception of the Supreme Court rulings.
Virginia allows the death penalty for those who commit forms of homicide, including premeditated killing, the willful killing of a pregnant woman by a person who knows she is pregnant, and a person under 14 by a person 21 and older. A poll in Virginia found 69.5% support the death penalty, but if given the option of life without parole, support dropped to 45.2%. With the death penalty in place, there is no possibility of criminals receiving life with parole if laws are changed. The death penalty is a crime deterrent and eliminates overpopulation in the prison system.
Some people believe that the negatives of the death penalty outweigh the positives. It has been shown that non-death penalty states have a lower murder rate. It is also more expensive due to more pre-trial time, more experts needed to judge the cases, more attorneys are needed, and the time it takes for the series of appeals, during which the inmates are held in high security of death row.
A study in Virginia showed that Virginia's recidivism rate was 28.3% in 2004, lower than the nation's recidivism rate of 43.3%. By putting murderers to death, it eliminates the possibility of them killing again. The option between the lethal injection or the electric chair is given to the inmates on death row. While both methods are painless, the lethal injection is considered more humane. All states with the death penalty use the lethal injection if the prisoner does not make a decision. Modern-day technology, such as DNA testing, fingerprinting, and toxicology reports, allow guilt or innocence to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
People who oppose the death penalty believe that the idea of an eye for an eye is cruel and unusual punishment. A poll done in 2010 by Lake Research Partners found that 61% of Americans thought that life in prison without parole with restitution would be a better alternative than the death penalty. The finality of death gives no chance of people being able to be exonerated. Since 1973, there have been 130 exonerations in the U.S. This means that human error caused 130 innocent people to serve time on death row. The idea of the U.S. condemning a country for violent acts yet allowing the death penalty is hypocritical. We believe that all cases should require DNA testing in order for the death penalty to be an option. Any case when DNA cannot be submitted for whatever reason cannot consider the death penalty for a sentence. The requirement of DNA will reduce the number of people put to death and the number of people on death row.
Recently, a man in Texas who was convicted of killing his girlfriend and her 2 adult sons in 1995 has made the news yet again. Hank Skinner was sentenced to death despite his proven alibi. At the time of his sentencing, Texas did not have a post-conviction DNA testing law. The post-conviction DNA testing law was passed in 2001 and has since expanded 3 times. His November 9th, 2011 execution date was postponed while the courts decide whether the most recent post-conviction DNA testing law applies to him.
The DNA testing will help save money by limiting the amount of money the states owe to exonerees. In Virginia, exonerated prisoners receive 90% of their Virginia per capita personal income for up to 20 years plus a $10,000 tuition award to the Virginia Community College system. However, if they were charged with a capital offense, they must plead guilty.